Do you know why so many Haitians hate President Clinton so much? Haiti used to have a lot of rice farmers who produced the cheapest rice in the region. Clinton proposed a trade deal that would abolish regulations on the trade of agricultural produce between Haiti and the United States. Clinton argued that because Haitian farmers produced such cheap rice, they would be more competitive when put up against American rice farmers. Haitian rice farmers would become wealthier and gradually prosperity could come to Haiti through the trade with rice. That did not happen. Instead, American farming lobbies pushed for ever-increasing subsidies for the US agricultural sector. American tax dollars were given to American rice farmers to ensure that they could keep producing and selling their rice at cheaper prices than Haitian rice. Consequently, Haitian rice could not compete on the US market, but the outcome ended up being even far worse than just that. Because trade deals are mutual, meaning US agricultural produce could also be sold on Haitian markets, the now cheaper American rice flooded the Haitian market. Haiti's rice farmers could not compete against American agricultural subsidies, not just in the United States, but now also in Haiti. Within just a few years, Haiti's rice farmers went bankrupt. Pretty much the entire agricultural sector of Haiti collapsed, and the bankrupted farmers and unemployed farm laborers sold their land, flooded into the cities, where they and their descendants still live in abject poverty to this day. In the end, Haiti is now no longer capable of producing its own domestically competitive agricultural produce, and became a country dependent on American food aid. This story is an extreme example of how trade deals can go very wrong. It is also on the other side of the ocean, but still relevant to us here in Europe today, because Ukraine is set to join the European Union, be it in a few years or in a decade or longer. Ukraine is on course of joining the European family, and Ukrainian membership will bring more challenges than any other previous memberships will. We have all read a lot of articles in the recent 2 years about Ukraine, about its war, but I see very little out there written and discussing what a Ukrainian EU membership would mean for Europe and what challenges it will bring. And I believe the main challenge will be Ukrainian agriculture and the impact it will have on Europe. This video is sponsored by Speakly. As Europe becomes more interconnected, it is more important than ever to learn a second language. Europe is becoming more and more bilingual and even trilingual. As our continent connects, it will be more important than ever before that you are able to speak at least one second language and know the basics of other languages for conversation, business, friendship, or maybe even love. I live in Vienna and the only Tinder matches I can get here are mostly Hungarians. Embarrassingly, I speak only English and German. I can read French, but I am not confident enough to speak French in conversation. And in situations like these, an app like Speakly is ideal for you. Speakly is a language learning app available on both web and mobile. It is ideal for when you wish to learn to speak a language, since it provides you with a lot of handy speaking exercises. So rather than just trying to memorize words, you get to take 30 minutes of time out of every day and practice your language skills. I've tried for a while to speak French with my French friend Frog, but can't make sense of his Savoy accent, and we end up speaking English most of the time. A language exercise routine provided through the Speakly app is therefore better for getting you started into learning a language for conversation. Speakly was created by 2 polyglots who are fluent in 7 languages. Based on their research, the courses provided make it possible for you to learn a language 5 times faster than with any other means. If you click the link in the description below, you can start a free 7-day trial to see for yourself what the benefits of the app are, and if you decide to join, there will be a 60% discount from your annual subscription. Download Speakly and start learning a language today. Ukraine is the 3rd largest stretch of fertile agricultural land in the world. The largest is the American Mississippi Basin, and the 2nd largest is the combined Argentinian, Brazilian and Paraguayan Parana Basin. But even though Ukraine only has the 3rd largest stretch of fertile soil in the world, Ukraine has the most fertile soil on this planet, because Ukraine has the most black soil in the world, also known as Chernosams. These form under very specific conditions in lands far away from oceans over the course of several thousand years. In most soils, the compost humus layer is 10 to 20 centimeters deep and contains 2 to 4% organic matter. In black soil, or Chernosams, the humus layer is up to 50 centimeters deep and contains 4 to 10% of organic matter. Only very few places on this planet have black soils. Central Canada, the northern parts of the American Midwest, and then there's the huge black soil belt stretching from Romania into Ukraine and through Ukraine into Russia, Siberia and northern Mongolia. Most places with black soil are too cold to take full advantage of them, but they remain the best place to be a farmer, mainly because you need no fertilizers and can do multiple harvests a year under the right climatic conditions. Ukraine has the single largest accumulation of black soils in the world, and it also has the best. The humus layer is up to 1.5 meters deep and contains up to 20% of organic matter. And this soil, which is arguably the most fertile soil in the world, stretches across 28 million hectares of Ukrainian land. Up to 60% of Ukraine is arable farmland, and more is possible. Ukraine is the single best place in the world to be a farmer. The climatic conditions are milder than those in central Canada or Siberia, and the Dnipro River provides both enough water for farming, and merchants can follow the river to ship produce into the world's markets from Odessa or Kherson, which is far easier than transporting by road or rail from Alberta, Montana or Siberia. A farmer in Ukraine can do multiple harvests a year, needs no fertilizers, and can ship his produce easily across the entire world. For years, European countries blockaded and postponed possible Ukrainian EU membership by claiming that Ukraine was too corrupt to join the European Union. But behind closed doors, politicians will admit to you the real reason why Ukrainian membership has been postponed for decades. We just don't like to publicly admit it. A Ukrainian EU membership would flood Europe with cheap foodstuffs. European food prices would drop substantially as a result. This would be beneficial for some, especially during an era of inflation, but the majority of European farmers would be at risk of going bankrupt. This is the challenge that we are going to face in the coming years. I get the sense that many try to avoid talking about this, and that we are in a collective mindset of postponing the search for solutions until the very last moment. But we have to talk about this. We have been here before in the 1980s, when the Dutch innovated efficient means of producing vegetables in greenhouses and flooded Western Europe with cheap vegetables that pushed other farmers out of the market. And we have also been here before in the early 2000s, when Polish, Hungarian, Slovak and Romanian farmers produced at a cheaper rate than Western farmers. In both these cases, market rules of innovation and labor cost brought serious challenges to our continent. But a simple fact we have to accept here now is that when it comes to agriculture, the Ukrainian geology breaks the supposed laws of capitalism. The Ukrainian farmers have less need to innovate. They simply are in a better and more competitive position by the simple facts of where they live. Ukraine has historically always functioned as a breadbasket of empires. Athens built an empire because it owned grain colonies on the Ukrainian coast. Rome then took over those grain colonies. The Kievan Rus got wealthy exporting the grains of the black soil. The Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth prospered through creating a grain plantation system on the black soils of Ukraine. And the grains of the black soils of Ukraine were the fuel that kept the Russian and Soviet empires going. Throughout most of this history, Ukrainians themselves never benefited much from any of this. It was others who used their black soils. Now, Ukraine owns their black soils, and when Ukraine becomes an EU member, Ukrainian farmers will benefit enormously. Ukraine will become the agricultural center of Europe. The main consequence for the rest of Europe is the question of what will happen to the European farmer. And it seems to me that many Europeans are deliberately ignoring this biting question. When Russia invaded Ukraine, the European Union, as part of emergency measures to support Ukraine, opened up its markets entirely to Ukrainian imports, meaning that for all intents and purposes, Ukraine is economically already an EU member. And within a year, many European countries already wanted to legislate a stop on Ukrainian agricultural sales because their own farmers could no longer compete. When this topic is discussed, I noticed a left-right divide here in Europe. A reason why right-leaning Europeans are largely opposed to the Ukrainian EU membership is because in almost every European country, farmers are the founders and core voting blocs of conservative parties. Conservatives who are not opposed to an EU membership of Ukraine argue for more subsidies for their regional farmers from European taxes to artificially keep their farmers competitive. But there is a reason why I started this video with the Haitian example. Doing these subsidies risks impoverishing Ukraine. We risk doing to the Ukrainian farmer what President Clinton did to the Haitian farmer. If we are going to have a European Ukraine, we have the responsibility to treat Ukraine as an equal partner. We cannot look down at Ukrainians as backward or somehow undeserving of equal opportunity. We will have the obligation of treating Ukrainians as equals and to give them the equal opportunities. Subsidizing the Ukrainian farmer into poverty to then use Ukrainians for cheap labor or buy up their land would risk turning the European Union into an imperial project with Ukraine as an internal grain colony. Left-leaning Europeans tend to approve of Ukrainian EU membership. A majority look forward to Ukrainian grain because, as mentioned before, it could lower European food prices substantially and thereby drastically lower the cost of living. This is a very interesting twist. Left-leaning Europeans traditionally argue for restraints in markets, but in this case argue for open markets to improve the average living standards of Europeans, while right-wing Europeans, who traditionally argue for deregulated markets, argued that in this case the market should be restrained to protect the European farmer. We should also not overlook that there are also potential concerns for Ukraine. Western farmers and agricultural corporations have more capital available to them. When Ukraine joins the European Union, Dutch agricultural corporations could come to Ukraine, buy up the Ukrainian farmlands, and begin dominating Ukrainian agriculture. But there are also examples, including from outside of Europe, which could show us means by which we can prepare. In the 1980s and 1990s, Japan opened its markets to agricultural imports. Japanese farmers knew that they could not compete with North and South American farmers. So Japanese farmers did one thing: they specialized. They turned production away from quantity to quality. Japanese farmers now produce luxury foods, from Wagyu beef to luxury fruits. As mentioned before, we have already seen large structural changes in European agriculture before the 2000s, when Poland, Czechia, Hungary and Slovakia joined. Many Western European farms consequently closed, and we saw the emergence of a fewer number of farmers with larger farms. The creation of this structure was supported by the European Union at the time because it feared a takeover of European agriculture by American agricultural corporations. The number of European farmers dropped from 15 million in 2003 to 10 million in 2016. Those farmers who survived, like for example in France, began specializing in luxury foods, while Germany specialized in mass industrial meat production, and the Dutch and Spanish pumped more resources into greenhouses and the mass production of very cheap fruits and vegetables that we all find in our supermarkets. Now we are about to see the same structural change again, and this time it will impact the farmers who 20 years before had the same impact on the farmers of Western Europe. Most of these countries are in a strong position, especially Poland and Czechia have managed to develop diversified economic sectors that will help them weather this change. But we still should talk about this more. And it is the reason why I'm making this video. The impact Ukrainian membership will have on European agriculture is something that we Europeans should discuss and brace for. We are justifiably focused right now on supporting Ukraine so it can win its war, but we must also think about winning the peace. What is the point of helping Ukraine win a European war if we then deny Ukraine an equal place in Europe after the war? I would like to encourage you all to have more conversations about a post-war Europe.